All right, hello. It is 8 o'clock on Wednesday. We are live. This is your host, Chuck Gross here. I just want to mention a couple things here if you're new to the Hangouts, if you're watching them live, that is. There is a Q&A bar on the right-hand side that I have now turned on. You can submit questions live while you're watching. So basically what will happen is I will go through any questions that were pre-submitted um, during the Hangout announcement. And once I've gone through all those, I will answer any live questions. Due to the summer, I've been kind of playing around with the times, kind of bouncing between 8:30 and 8 o'clock. So there may not be a lot of live questions happening as I kind of adjust to the times. And they may change as we kind of get closer towards the kids going back to school. I normally don't have the fan on behind me. I apologize. My air conditioning is entirely busted, and it's like 90 degrees. So the fan is going to stay on. I apologize if that's annoying to anyone watching. So, all right. With that said, we only had one question pre-submitted this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it. This may end up just being a really short hangout, and that's okay. They don't all have to be 45 minutes like some of them are. I'm actually pondering moving the Hangouts to be once a month so that they can be a little bit longer and people can have time to kind of submit their questions as they come up. A lot of times I'll announce the Hangout and it's not maybe not enough lead time to actually think of your questions while there's a Hangout pending with available questions. So if you have any feedback on making them monthly, please let me know, and then I'd love your feedback. So let's get to the question. All right, our first question comes from Paula, and Paula says, I would love to learn about resources for general caloric information for basic foods. I saw that some information is available through MyFitnessPal on its website, but I will be using the app more. Any information is not available there. That's a great question, Paula. So like you, I use the MyFitnessPal app more than the website. The good news, though, is that the app does have that info. When you're searching for an item to add, it should show the calorie information right below. So for example, when I go to add an item to breakfast, it shows my recent entries. And so like the first item is bananas and 126 grams, 110 calories. Please note you don't have to weigh your bananas. Just pick one measurement and stick with that one consistency. That one consistently. Consistency in what you pick for foods that are a single item, banana, apple, that type of thing. The variance isn't going to be that great that you really need to worry about it that much. So consistency in tracking is a little bit more important than worrying about the calories differences between a large banana and a medium banana over a long period of time. Now, certain things like a sweet potato, you could get a sweet potato as big as like, the palm of your hand, or you could get a sweet potato as big as a baby. I had one of those last night. That was huge. So things like that are starches, potatoes, you may want to get into actually measuring those, but things like bananas and apples, pears, plums, nectarines, whatever, you don't need to obsessively measure just those. And let me actually see if I can show you what I mean on the MyFitnessPal app. I'm not sure if it's going to work with the glare here, but it's worth a shot, right? All right, so nah, that's a little too much of a glare. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see there's bananas. You can see the calorie information is right there below bananas. And if you pick one, you get the full load of information: 110 calories, 1 protein, 30 carbs, 0 fat for one banana. It says 126 grams, but just go with that one, regardless of the size of your bananas. And due to the law of averages, it will work out to be irrelevant over a long enough period of time, so not worth worrying about. So, point is, the calorie information is in the MyFitnessPal app if you know where to look. However, I'm getting the impression that possibly your question was a little bit deeper than that, meaning like, where do I go to find what are the best sources of protein? That's my hunch. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So I would say that before I dig into that too deep, some places that I used before MyFitnessPal came out, I used Calorie King, and I used that to figure out what the calories were in any item, and then I put it into an Excel spreadsheet. That's how I track calories before I had a smartphone and MyFitnessPal came out, which was like 8 years ago. Another resource is the USDA Agricultural Research National Nutrient Database. That's certainly a mouthful, and it's much easier to say MyFitnessPal or MFP. So you can search for that, Google, Bing, whatever, under USDA Food Composition Database. There are some tools there where you can say, give me foods that are high in protein. So that if that's what you were looking for, you can specify foods that are high in protein, high in fiber, et cetera, to find some resources. The third resource would actually be the website nutritiondata.self.com, which has calorie information when you search. And it also has a food finder under tools, nutrient search tool. So that kind of lets you figure out not only what foods have what nutrients, but if you want to look for foods that are high in certain nutrients. So lastly, I want to mention that I did include some specific protein sources in your program document towards the bottom. And my guide that's available on my blog, which is just Chuck Gross Fitness, is the No Cooking Required Healthy Eating Guide. I think it's called the I Can't Cook cookbook or handbook. It has some cheap and easy choices that you might be interested in, mostly for protein, but they're going to kind of give some other options for some of the other, like carbs and fat and fiber and things like that. The idea being that it's either you just heat it up or you just eat it as is without having to worry about cooking too much, and it's kind of easy. One thing I want to mention when it comes to that, if you're kind of like, I don't know what to eat with protein, keep it simple at first. There's no need to make these elaborate, like 15 ingredient meals when you first get started. Even now, I don't really get too complicated just because it's easy and doesn't require a lot of planning in advance. The simpler you make it, that means you can have these different components that you can combine in different ways without having to plan too much in advance. Meaning if you have a bunch of chicken, you could make a chicken salad, you can make chicken stir fry. You don't have to use chicken. You can throw in beans. You could just kind of make these ingredients that are really simple dishes that you can kind of swap components depending on what you want. So, you're not limited as to like these fancy recipes and trying to change out ingredients to make them more friendly to your goals. That's just one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so that actually was all of the questions that were asked in advance, and I am not seeing any questions right now being asked. So I'm just going to give that a moment. So yes, I am drinking a Diet Pop. It's caffeine free because my bedtime is like 9:15, 9:30 for me to be able to get up at 5:30 in the morning. So I don't have a problem with Diet Pop for the most part. It doesn't make up the majority of my fluid intake, and you kind of have to, there's nothing wrong with Diet Pop in general, unless you kind of do like a false equivalency where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to order a Diet Pop with something, therefore I'm going to have more room for something else. That's kind of when you can get into the problem. But as long as you're keeping your calorie budget under control, there's nothing wrong with Diet Pop, with the exception of, carbonated beverages like that are not really great for your teeth. So keep that in mind. But Diet Pop is certainly okay. It's not a problem. You don't really need to worry about artificial sweeteners unless you yourself have a sensitivity or allergy or something towards certain sweeteners, and some people do react to them differently. So that's one thing to keep in mind. All right, we're going to call that a wrap. By next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, I should say, I will have a decision as far as if I'm going to have another hangout. I'm thinking I will have one next week just to make sure that we catch any questions that were a result of there being not too many this week. It usually goes in spurts. One hangout, there's 1 or 2 questions, and the next one there's 15 or 16 questions, and that's okay. So, well, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions that come up in the meantime between when you've watched this and the next hangout, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you're watching this and you're not currently working with me and you're not sure how to get a hold of me, it's chuckgrossfitness.com. It's Chuck Gross on Facebook, and you can always email me at chuck@chuckgrossfitness.com. All right. Thank you and have a good night. Bye-bye.